Hello there, everyone. My name is Ken, and I would like to cordially welcome you to this episode of the Two World Podcast. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the third part of this team, and that is Jacob. He is unable to be with us today. Jacob, we miss you and look forward to your presence in a future episode. However, we do have with us today our co-host, and he is?
I am Barney.
All right. And it's good to be here today. And Barney and I are extremely excited to welcome back to the Two World Podcast for the third time, best-selling Amish romance novelist, and I think I can say, and a friend, and that is Patricia Johns. A little bit of background in case by some stretch you are unfamiliar with her and her work. Patricia has written now over 60 books, and she presently is writing for the Bethany House and Harlequin books. Her schooling involved a BA from the University of Toronto, and she is now situated in Alberta, Canada, living there with her husband. And we can say, as a change in life, a university bound, university bound son. It's very exciting news. Her books are centered on strong Amish women and the men who fall in love with them. I think we last spoke to you in October of 2025, and much has happened in Patricia's life since then, personally and professionally. She had already been acclaimed as a publisher's weekly #1 best-selling author, but in the interim since we last spoke, she has added the title of New York Times best-selling author to her ever-increasing list of accolades. We are anxious to talk to her about that special honor, as well as diving into her third and final book in the Amish of Shepherd's Hill trilogy, Through the Valley, which will be released and available on August 4th. So we welcome back to the Two World Podcast, Patricia Johns. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's really nice to be here.
Great.
Yeah, I think that probably I for sure, and I know Ken probably echoes this sentiment that we had really been looking forward to getting the chance to sit down with you a third time. It's been so exciting to read the first book that we just happened upon, and then second book in the series, which was so strong. And then I know that I pestered your publicist a few too many times saying, when can I get my hands on that third book? And she's like, patience, sometime in the summer. But before we talk about this final entry into this trilogy centered around Tabitha, how was it? We'd love to hear, kind of walk us through a little bit how you found out that you were on the New York Times bestseller list and kind of what you did in relation to that, like reaction almost, how you responded to that.
Well, I found out because I was actually on a walk with my husband and my phone just started blowing up. And he was annoyed. He's like, for crying out loud, turn that thing off. We're taking a walk. Do you know what I mean? He was highly annoyed. And I was like, hold on, let me. And if you have like Apple, everything's connected. And so you can turn off your phone, but your watch keeps ding, 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 right? And so you got to like individually turn off your devices for this. And so I looked at my watch and someone was saying, congratulations, this is huge. And I was like, okay. Okay, honey, I'm being congratulated for something. Let me check. And that's where I found out it was other authors who had told me they'd seen it, and they said, like, you made the list, you're now a New York Times bestseller. So that was very exciting. And yeah, it's been, I think that was in January, and I've just been flying on that ever since. Because this has been like, I wouldn't even say it's a goal because I wasn't really sure I'd ever achieve that. It was sort of a dream where you go like, oh, wouldn't that be neat if ever since I was young, it was been like, oh, that would be amazing. And I just sort of had put that aside as this is probably not going to happen for me. On top of which, I had been close to getting onto the list like a couple of months prior where I had another book come out and I didn't make the list because they had sort of skipped my month of releases and they were still working on the previous month. And so they just, for whatever reason, skipped my month for releases. And that was sort of my opportunity. And I had been so hoping for that. And I was so crushed when it was just like my month got skipped
Mm.
for like just for the releases. I mean, that month they did have the the list. They just didn't, focus on my month of releases. And so I was utterly crushed. And I was like, that's it. I am not getting my hopes up for this again. That is it. I'm tired of feeling like this. Like I was so crushed. I was like, I'm not letting myself get emotionally invested in this again. So I wasn't even looking. I refused
Mm.
to look
Mm.
that next month in January. I was like, I'm not looking at this. I'm not. I refuse. I will not even check up because I officially don't care. Like, you know what I mean? And so that's when I got it. And so it was very exciting. It was a pretty big deal.
Yeah. How does the information, get to the powers that be so that you are acclaimed to be on that list?
Mm.
Well, technically they should be checking, but so they would like you would
Okay.
have, there's people people in the publishing houses who check all of this, and if they see one of their authors,
Mm.
then they would let the editor know, and the editor would go, oh, this is one of my authors, and so that would take a little more time than your phone blowing up. Your
Sure.
author pals who saw the list. So that's the way it should work. I found out, immediately emailed my agent, right? And so she also emailed the publishers and said, "Oh, by the way,
Oh, yeah.
your author." So there was a few different avenues that they would have found out. And so then, of course, I got an email from my editor congratulating me and saying like, "Oh, this is wonderful." And but yeah, so it was lots of excitement. The publisher sent me flowers, which was really
Oh.
kind. Yeah. So yeah, it was a big celebration.
I imagine. At home as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's such a big thing. Wow.
Yeah, well, I printed off, like, a screenshot of it and framed it and stuck it on the wall,
Oh, yeah.
and I had a Publishers Weekly one that I had printed off and framed where I was spitting distance from John Grisham. Now, my husband is a massive John Grisham fan, so John Grisham was number 1, and I was, like, number 3 or something like this, and, of course, this was for mass market, so it was like John Grisham's mass market release of a book. I mean, his came out in hardback and everything else,
Mm,
right?
mm, mm.
But just for the mass market release of that book, he was number 1 and I was about number 3, so I was spitting distance from John Grisham. So this got framed and stuck on the wall. Because it's John Grisham. Of course, this is going to go there. So it took a while for me to like sort of replace that one. And then I'd gotten the number 1. And I don't think I even printed that one off because the John Grisham thing was pretty cool. So my husband, he was like a John Grisham, right? So that was like in our home, that was just pretty cool. So then I replaced it with the New York Times one, which went, okay, this has to replace it. So I have like my single frame, my one frame of bragging rights, right? And I'll swap things out of my single bragging rights frame. And somebody asked me, they said, well, why didn't you just get a second
Right,
frame?
right, right, right.
That's like, it did not occur to me.
Oh,
Literally didn't occur to me to get like frame number 2. And it's already swapped out. I'm like, yeah, it'll do. So I have my one bragging frame, just one. So this now takes the frame.
I
oh,
think in the past when we've kind of congratulated you on some of the milestones that had occurred in your career, you kind of, very, I don't know, humbly or in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way, you said, "Oh, well, maybe it's just because, on the cover of my book was a bakery and people happened to be hungry that day," or, something like that. But could you tell us the name of the book that made it onto the list? And then how do you feel? Did you feel that this really was one of your really strong books and very deservedly was on there more than just it had a nice cover?
This one was okay. I have to actually literally double check. It's in my bookshelf here. It was the Christmas one, and it was an Amish bookshop courtship. Sorry, I
Ah,
only have
yeah.
so much room in my brain, and things
Right,
fall off
right,
the
right,
hinge.
right.
It was an Amish bookshop courtship, and no, I think it was a really good book. I
Mhm,
do. I do think it was good. I don't. I do think that I have written books that are stronger. For example, like, I think this series, the Amish of Shepherd's Hill,
mhm,
is, like, my
mhm.
best yet. Like, I really
Oh,
do.
mhm.
I think, like, writing-wise, that these are, like, I'm so proud of these. I think they're better. They have not made New York
Yeah.
Times list, right? So, yeah, sometimes it has to do, with something as, I don't know, as simple as, like, timing, as it's a
Mm,
Christmas release, it had
mhm,
a really beautiful cover, people were in the mood for, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it
mhm.
really does come down to that. Like,
Wow.
I'd love it if it came down to something as simple as, "She's brilliant."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
I
really,
would
yeah.
love that. I would love that. But honestly, when it comes to these things, it doesn't. It comes
Mm,
down
mm,
to the love-inspired books are on the
mm,
shelves everywhere, in Walmarts, in, I don't know, like, like your mom and pop, not mom and pop
mhm,
shops, but like your like for us it's Shoppers Drug Mart in
mhm.
Canada,
Oh, yeah.
but it's like just Myers, Target, they're everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. And that helps a lot in sales. If you have books that are sitting on shelves people can pick up and drop into their shopping cart, that really, really
Right.
helps build up those sales. So if you when it comes to the trade books, to get to the point that you're in all of those stores, you're one of the very few, top 10, top
Oh,
20
wow.
possibly
Wow.
who are going
Wow.
to make it into, across the board in all these stores. And that really, really drives the sales. So yeah, like I really wish I could just, say like, it's because my brilliance was discovered.
Right.
But there's a lot of other things that come into play, right? And there's a lot of authors who are absolutely brilliant
Mm,
who aren't coming onto these lists, but it's not because they aren't writing brilliant
mm,
books. It's just there's a lot of different factors that come into it, which is why when like you finally, everything sort of converges, right? And these things all come together and you are able to get onto a list like that. Like you're because it's not just like, oh, write a better book and you'll get there. Oh, that has
yeah.
so little
Yeah,
to do
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it.
yeah.
So yeah, so like a lot of things had to come together and converge to make that happen.
Yeah.
And I joke around at home. I'm like, well, they can regret it, but they can't take it away. Now for life, I am a New York
That's
Times
terrible.
bestseller. You can't take that away from me now, right? So, but yeah, I really wish it were,
Mm,
a
mhm,
simpler answer,
mhm,
but it has a lot of
mhm,
things that have to
mhm.
come together.
Wow, wow.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, maybe on the way to Through the Valley, eh, I think kudos to be able to maintain the quality you did through a series of 3 books,
Mm.
Thank
which
you.
was sort of unusual that you would write in a series. Can you take us a little bit through the mapping of Tabitha's story and, other characters are now going to be added and come into play in books 2 and 3? What was that process like for you?
Well, I had planned the series from the start. So
Mm.
I knew which characters were going to be in each book before I even started with book one. Like I had discussed that with editors. We had like hammered out like exactly sort of how we wanted this to work. They were very pleased with my book three, what I had planned for book three. Like when I sat down, they said, okay, well, they were very happy that I was going to wrap things up the way I did. They were like, this is awesome. We really like this. Fantastic. And so I had yes, I had absolutely planned that Tabitha's story would unfold the way it did through all three books. So that was coming because I was slotting it in between other contracted books. These books came out a little further apart than might normally come out through Bethany House. Bethany House would prefer to have the books all come out in a single year, which makes sense for a lot of reasons. But I had other books contracted, and I couldn't just drop contract books or push them aside or anything like that. Like, I mean, professionally, you don't do that. So I had to put them in, and space them out a little bit. But they um so these books were a little more spaced out. So I think people had a little more time to be like, "What are you doing?" Especially at the end of book 2.
Oh,
Book
yeah.
2 ends with a bit of a gasp. And of course, I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't read the series yet. So I don't want to say what happens at the end of book 2. But when I wrote book 2, the editor had said, "Well, let's actually tone this down a bit because we want it's a gasp in Tabitha's story.
Mm.
And so we really want to be focusing on the other couple. So let's see if we can tone this down a bit." And so I said, "Okay." And so I did. And then another editor, because when you get with books, you have there's a first editor and then there's a second one. And so you have different people are coming through and working on the book with you. And so the next editor had to go through, she said, "Oh, I feel like you could do so much more with this. You could
Oh,
really
no.
make this scene powerful." And I was like, "Perfection." And so I brought back my original view for that and really packed a punch with it. And then got letters from readers who went, "What have you done?" And they were trying to guess what was going to happen in book 3, and I had to keep my mouth shut. And
Mm.
I don't know, like the human in me wants to reassure them and be like, "Oh, let me tell you what happens so you don't feel too much anxiety." But of course I couldn't do that. But I wanted to. I really wanted to because I'm like, "I'm sorry, I've caused you anxiety and now I want to make you feel better." So now with book 3, I can make everybody feel better as I wrap everything up and everything, comes together as you guys know. So
Mhm. Did you feel that having that extra time in between the books was almost a blessing that you could have that chance to take a step back and maybe did you find yourself like maybe remapping or redrawing some lines or focusing or bringing in different characters than you had originally planned, or did it really pretty much go how you mapped it out from the very beginning?
well, it went the way I mapped it out, and it has to because I was contracted for a specific story. Like
Oh,
when you
okay.
sign a contract, like
Mhm.
and you've given them, this is how things are gonna, you know, you should not deviate from that too much. Like they've purchased something from you, and they've
Yeah.
purchased you writing a specific
Mhm.
story. So I didn't change how the story was going to go. That was mapped out from the beginning.
Mhm.
But I think having the extra time between the books actually was quite helpful because it gave me more mulling time in between. I was working on other stories, but I could be thinking about it and thinking, I bet you this character would feel this way. I bet you, I think that book 3, with the extra time in between, I feel that book 3 was better because I had more mulling time and I had more time to really sort of process where my characters were at emotionally. I feel that book 3 was much stronger for having had that time in between. So, not that I changed how the story worked, but
Mm.
perhaps I've I understood where my characters were at a little bit better emotionally, having had the time to think it through a little bit longer in the back of your head where things just sort of percolate and,
Mhm.
you know, annoy you at 2 a.m. you know? So,
Very good. Hmm.
Yeah, I wonder if so when I had the chance to finally get the book and start reading it, I put the book that I had been reading at that moment, I put that aside, knowing that that one could keep because I was really excited to get this one and going. And I started off at just such a great pace that I started putting chapters together. I was like, wow, all of this happened in chapter 1. And I wanted to say, if it's okay if I read a little bit from the
sure.
end, the way that you ended the second chapter was so neat. And then I'll come up with a question after that. But you ended
Okay.
just at the very end of the chapter. It said, "You're never so close to God than when," this is a character is saying this, "than when you are close to the earth." He used to say, "God created us from the dirt. And when we care for the animals God gave us, we are following his commission given to Adam in the garden. God is waiting for us right there in the soil and the work. It's where he speaks." And myself, I didn't grow up necessarily on a farm, but I grew up on 7 acres with
Mhm.
sheep and a very, very, very big garden and even some apple trees. And I can kind of see my dad, maybe my mom too, lots of flower gardens too, kind of coming up with this analogy. But you grew up in Toronto, right? And didn't necessarily have this same kind of experience, but what a wonderful way that you crafted this analogy. How was it that you got into the mindset for this? I just thought this is something that I highlighted right away. It was just so wonderful.
Oh, well, I didn't actually grow up in Toronto. I we bounced a lot all over the place. My dad was going to school in various places, and so we were in BC. We went to the States. We came back. So there was. I asked my mom. I told my mom. I said, I don't feel like I have a hometown,
Huh.
and she said, "You're from BC," and I was like, "Oh,"
Okay.
because my child experience was just really, disjointed, and for them, they were like, no, BC was, but my dad grew up on a farm. So he
Oh,
grew up on a dairy farm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he so his father was a farmer, and that my dad's whole family line farmers, and some of my uncles became farmers and that sort of thing. So I do have a little bit of a glimpse
yeah.
into that life, but I think I always say this to you guys, and I feel like I always let you down big time when I
Uh-oh.
do research, right? Like, so I do have like that bit of a touch, because dad grew up on a farm and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I do have that little bit of a touch. But a lot of research, like I've been like for years, I've been really pouring over just the research to write Amish stories. And like my dad's side of the family was all like older, not old order, sort of like conservative Mennonite. And so they were Mennonite brethren, if that means anything to you.
Mm,
But so it's so I did have like, like an aunt who would tell me stories and things like that. So I did have that connection to it. But then a lot of it comes down to just years and years of you're really pouring over the research. Okay, so what sort of thing can happen on a farm that will, you know what I mean? Because I need this plot to move forward. And so you're pouring over stuff and you're researching and watching YouTube videos. And I think, and a lot of like watching videos from ex Amish people and people who are like new order Amish who are willing to sort of speak on
mhm,
video and talk about things, stuff like that. So a lot of that sort of research sort of comes together. And I feel like that's not the romantic quill in hand answer. But yeah, a lot of research. A lot. I'd like credit for research. Right? Because I worked so hard. So I think yeah, it's years and years of
yeah.
really pouring over a subject matter.
Yeah. Well, whatever it may be, I mean, these words definitely came from your fingertips, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
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 Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
I do think that like, I personally, I've been asked, like, could you be Amish? And no, I couldn't be. I personally couldn't be. Uh, have I mentioned my, my Apple obsession? Right? I don't think that I could, but I do. Much like my aunt. My aunt she's in her 80s now, and she's still Mennonite, and she is just the sweetest lady. And she's she really, really respects the old order Mennonite way of living.
Mm,
She deeply respects it. She sees the beauty in it. She sees the value that it brings. But she you know drives a very nice car, and she and her husband are very comfortable. And do you know what I'm saying? Like it's just
mm,
she doesn't live the life, but she has a very, very deep respect for it. And so I
mm,
feel like I'm sort of the same way in that where no, personally, I don't think I could live the whole life. That is a huge commitment that I don't think I could personally make. But I do see the beauty
mm,
in what they bring, and the wisdom that comes with a life that is so close to the earth, and it's just so close to just those simple rhythms that make us most human. And we can sometimes get separated from that with, our smartphones and, reels and all of this stuff. We can sort of feel a bit adrift. And I think that's something we often feel is a little adrift with, all the news coming at us and all the images and all the videos and just all these things that sort of bombard us on a regular basis. And you remove all of that, you give yourself a week where you just sort of take a deep breath and you start feeling much more human again. And so I really feel that what they do give us a very good reminder of these are the things that matter. Whether or not you fully embrace this lifestyle or not, I think there's lots of things that we can take from, their example and say, I can implement this in my life in a different way. I might not give up my electricity or my smartphone, but I can certainly limit things. Like I've been really severely limiting my news content. Like I will look once a day at like CBC for us in Canada. CBC is the big news place. So I'll once a day I get like, the email to top CBC news stories. I will glance through those and that's where I stop myself. And I'm like, there we go. If it was super, super, super important, CBC would let me know.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think anything is dying just yet because CBC hasn't said so. Right? So things like that, right? I think we can implement a lot of things that can simplify our lives and slow us down and bring us back into touch with the things that make us most human and connect us most closely to God instead of being distracted with all of the, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
No.
Well said.
Well, we've been permitted to mention that there's a death early in Through the Valley. Would you care to elaborate in details for our potential readers of your
Okay.
book? Take us through that a little bit.
Sure. Okay, so this book, it starts with 2 funerals and ends with 2 weddings. So that is the amount of information that I've put out there, is there's 2 funerals and there's 2 weddings. The first funeral is the one that I'll elaborate on. The second funeral is a surprise. Who dies? So the first funeral is old Tom. And Tom he's a bit of a crotchety old farmer who had his own way of doing things, but he was very close to the earth. He was very devoted to God. He loved his family, but he had his own way of doing things and his own way of seeing things. And so this book begins with Tom's death. And Tom, he's a beloved member of the community. He passes away, but before he died, he had asked that a certain young woman be there to, cook soup and clean his house a little bit and just sort of help out with some of the household things while he was, I guess he didn't know how long it would be, but while he was ill. And so she was doing that. And so she was a good friend of his. She thought he was a wonderful, he loved his cattle in a way that like nobody else fully understood. They were like, this guy is like really crazy about his cattle. And she understood that because she loved cattle too. She'd never had a chance to own any cattle of her own. Her father did not own a farm. He worked elsewhere. He's to support his family. And so, but she loved cattle. And so old Tom sort of gave her the opportunity. She had bought a couple head of cattle and he let her keep them on his farm. And so for her, this was great. And so I don't think this gives it away because this sets up the story and everything takes off from this. So they read the will after this funeral and they find out that he did not leave his farm to the expected grandsons who had been told their entire lives, you're inheriting, get ready, know the land, this is going to be yours. The grandsons who expected to inherit didn't inherit, and Miri does. Miri inherits the whole shebang. And this is a rather big deal for the community. It's a rather big deal for her. And it kicks off the entire story where the community everybody has expected things to go a certain way. And old Tom, in his typical way, has turned everything upside down upon his death and blown everything out of the water. And then the story kicks off from there.
Okay. And we get to learn, Tom's demise does not signal the end of knowing anything about Tom. You've really done a nice job of some more reveals just about how Tom came to that point and his life in general, and that was interesting. Miri certainly exemplifies your strong Amish
Mm.
woman.
Yeah.
She is incredible.
Yeah. I loved writing her. She's definitely a tomboy. She's always been a tomboy. And within the Amish structure, there's gender roles are very pronounced, right? There's men and there's women. There's a man's role, there's the women's role, and things are very, very delineated. And so for her, she's not good at the girl things, right? She's not a great cook. She's a terrible seamstress, right? But she's excellent with cattle. She's excellent with the outdoor stuff. And I think we all know women who just don't fit into the super girly pattern. We
Mhm.
all know women like this. And it's always annoyed me, especially these days. I find that society is getting a lot more delineated. There is, girly girl, and then there's macho guy. And if you don't fall into one of those, they're like, well, something must be wrong with you, kind of thing. Or if it's not wrong with you, you must not belong as a woman, or you must not belong as a man. You must belong elsewhere because you certainly don't belong in one of these very extreme ends of the camp. And I don't like that because there's so many people who you know I'm sorry, you don't get to kick somebody out from under the umbrella because they don't, because, she's not, girly and frou-frou, because she's, better with, a weed whacker than she is in the kitchen. Do you know what I'm saying? And there's
Mm.
lots of women, like there's tons of women who are much more comfortable doing other things and they're better at it. They're great at fixing cars. They're great at, landscaping. They're great at the other day, no, not the other day now, it was probably the other year. I was I was going out, it was tons of snow, we had a huge dump of snow, and I had to go clean off my car, and there was the company that comes outside of our building and, snow blows, our walkways and this sort of thing, and they happened to be there, and it was a young lady, she was probably just a new high school graduate, so she was probably about 18, and she saw me coming, and she was like, "Hey, you want me to blow off your car for you?" Because she had this
Mm.
blowing wand thing. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And she blew off my entire car for me, which just saved me a ton of time. And then off she went, and she was part of this company, right, that was taking care of this stuff. She was
Mm.
excellent at the job, right? Would that be considered like a girl job? No, but dang, she was good at it, and I was so grateful for her. And she was strong and she was competent. And she actually kind of inspired Mary, because I remember it's like
Mm.
and she was young. She could be my daughter, right? But I saw her and I thought, "You're great." She was just great, and I was so grateful she was there. And I was like, "Oh, you're phenomenal." And I wanted to be able to show a young woman who's Tabitha. She became a veterinarian. This young woman, for her, it wasn't schooling that made her really special and
Mhm.
really set her
Mhm.
apart. For her, she's really good at this stuff. And so, yeah. So anyways, that was something that I really wanted to show. I wanted to be able to show somebody who's, what, maybe she doesn't, do all the typically feminine things, keeping home and cooking and all of those things. But she's still a woman, and she still wants love, and she still deserves love, and she's still going to make somebody a really fantastic wife, even if she's never going to be a great cook. Right?
Sure,
So, yeah.
sure. Yeah, I have to tell you, I'm married to one of those kinds of women.
Yeah.
And it just popped into my mind, Patricia, that picture when we were first members of our small Mennonite church, we often help people move. And this particular time, it was us. And it was one of the first times that we had been around other people and participating in this activity. And I can remember there was a guy in the truck who was very good at putting things in certain places. And, my wife walks onto the truck carrying something and right away he rushes to her as if, she's about to drop it at any moment. And I just looked at the situation and I'm off to the side just laughing to myself because she's stronger than I am and has done these kinds of things and grew up in a certain way where physical activity was no problem. He was just being
Yeah.
kind, and I got that, it still made me chuckle a bit that he hadn't come to a realization, like so many people in Through the Valley, that this very capable woman has strengths that you're not seeing. Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't need to dive into her defense. She'll be, right? Like he did.
Exactly.
Your wife did not need someone to come and take the burden from her. She was fine,
It was fun.
right? She was just fine. Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. Like there's I I'm waiting for, I don't know how long it's going to take, 10, 20 years, where like, society will sort of, swing back again, where instead of, everything showing such extreme opposites, be able to show us as human beings with our strengths. There's things that we're good at. There's the things that you know, things that we're not good at. All of us, right?
Mm.
So yeah, I think that's important. I love that. I love how he was all like, "Oh, your wife is fine." And that's the around here, like we have, rural areas and farms and stuff like that. The women are strong. Like physically, they are strong. They can hoist stuff. A good friend of mine, she lives out in an acreage. She's got 4 boys, and she is strong. She can lift stuff because, like, what? She's gonna wait till her husband comes home to lift that. It's gotta move. Right. And she's strong, and she's wonderful, and she's feminine, and she's beautiful, and she's just a wonderful person. But she's strong, and she I remember I had brought something. I'd promised to bring her something, so I had brought it. It was in a bag. And now in my home, I'm not the strong one. I am the slightly more frou-frou type. I do the cooking. I think I'm a pretty good cook. I do the baking. So I am the person who does those things. And in our home, I would have raised my son to be like, "There's something to carry. You carry it because I'm a lady." And that's like my entire, "I'm a lady, carry it for me." So he was just raised with that. He was like, "Oh, okay, well, something to be carried. He obviously will carry it." And so either my husband or my son will carry stuff, but eventually I'm going to have to, I don't know, lift something myself once my son moves out. But the day hasn't come yet. It'll happen eventually. So, so I sort of insisted upon this. And I went to my friend's place, had this bag. I saw her son. I was like, "Oh, come here, come carry this for me." Just habit, right? And so he comes over, he picks it up. He goes like, "Oh, this isn't heavy." I started to laugh. I said, "I didn't say it was heavy. I said it was a lady.
I just wanted you to do it.
I just wanted you to carry it." But
Right.
in his home, it would have to be legitimately heavy for mom to be like,
Yeah.
"Okay, somebody come over here and lift this." For mom not to be like, "Oh, whatever. I'm just," you know what I'm saying? For mom to actually pass that off and have one of them hoist it, it would have to be legitimately a heavy. And so our homes just run differently, but like we get along beautifully. We just like laugh at like how different our homes can run sometimes, right? So like, but around here, like yeah, like women are like they're not waiting on some guy to lift something for them. They're getting the job done, right?
Mm, mm,
And so looking at that with Miri, I just really wanted to celebrate
mhm,
strong women who get the job done, who, she doesn't need someone to tell her how to take care of cattle. She's not always perfect, as you find out in the book. There's stuff she doesn't know, and it drives her nuts
mm,
that she doesn't. But she really doesn't want to be rescued. And she doesn't want someone to just take over the man's work and let her, you know what I mean? She's like, "No, this is what I want to do. Back off." Right? And so I really, really wanted to celebrate this a strong rural woman who gets the job done in Miri.
yeah, I love how you found a way to bring these elements of people that you know or kind of a character that you might imagine would fit in kind of any story, but you work it in a way that it's very genuine and very believable that this person is also Amish and living in the Amish life and dealing with those, the things that are tricky in her life, just because in addition to being just slightly what people might not expect, she's also living within this Amish community.
Yeah.
And I really connected with Meanie and thought she's just such a great character to read about and always wondering how are these things going to work out for her in the end. But it was just so neat how you brought outside things and made them really genuinely Amish. But one thing at the end of the book of second book, and then also at the start of the third book, and then kind of in some undertones throughout the third book, you talk about matchmakers being used in Amish culture. And I've run into that in other Amish fiction that I've read about. So I think probably you ran into that quite a bit in your research, maybe. And could you tell us maybe some of the interesting things that you learned about matchmakers? And then how is it that you decided to get that involved in your second and then also in the third book?
I think matchmakers are probably less used than we in fiction use them. I think they make for, I think more often, like quite honestly, I think more often you would have, for example, I'll tell you how my grandparents met. My grandparents, my grandfather was first generation immigrant from Russia, living in the prairies in Canada. Were they in BC at that point or were they in Saskatchewan? They were either in Saskatchewan or BC. And so it was time to find a wife. And in their Mennonite community, he didn't have anybody he was either not related to or really, I guess, age appropriate or he was interested in. So he had to go find a wife. So he went to a different community and was like, let it be known, I am looking for a wife. And and so he met my grandmother, and I don't think they knew each other very well at all. They were like, this will do. You're attractive. I think you are a lovely person. Let's do this. And they got married and had 12 children. Right? So my dad was the second youngest of 12. So he has one younger brother. He was the second youngest of 12 kids. So so I think that sort of thing is probably more realistic where somebody will go to a community and try and figure out like, hey, I'm looking for a wife. And he's looking for a wife, right? People introduce, they have some introductions. But it's not for the sake of a story, we'll use a matchmaker, a person who's in this role of making these things happen. It works, it's a little handier in a story, a little less messy, easier to follow for a reader. I think more realistically, you would have, sort of unofficial matchmakers. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you'd have like some older ladies in the community who are like, okay, well, we've got these girls who are single and this guy, you know what? Come here. Come here. Sit down for a piece of pie. Let's talk. You know what I mean? So I think that is much more realistic in how things would actually play out. But I have to confess, using an actual official matchmaker, I don't think is something that would happen terribly often.
Oh, I gotcha.
To Amish communities, but we use it a lot. Like as authors, we use this a lot,
Right.
just because it really does sort of streamline things. And I think the only real difference is making her an official matchmaker instead of an unofficial one, because every community has unofficial matchmakers, right? Like in churches, you've got like the older ladies or like the middle-aged ladies who are like, you come here. You know what I mean? And oftentimes it doesn't work out. I mean, I remember being a young woman and having some older ladies go, "Oh, have you met so and so?" And you're like, "Hi." You feel nothing. Do you know what I'm saying? But there's lots of well-intentioned setting up that happens in communities. And I think that you have some that are more inclined towards the well-intentioned setting up than others. So I think a lot of times it's just not official. It's just not official. I could see myself, give me a few years. I can see myself like sliding into unofficial matchmaker. I'm like, yeah, I could do that. I think that'd be fun. Like some meaningful contribution to a community.
Well, you do have a son.
That's right. That's right. He won't let me.
No, no,
He
no, no.
I have been told very clearly that who he chooses is who he chooses. And that's that. I'm like, probably for the best. He's doing fine without me.
Oh,
So matchmakers
Yeah.
do open themselves to eventual blame.
True.
yeah.
Perhaps he's
True.
sparing you.
It's right. You never know. Right?
Oh, that's great. We haven't talked a lot about Tabitha yet, and Jonas, and the difficulties they face with one another, and I was struck by something you said earlier where enable in the Amish culture, there are certain things you do and don't do, and there were times
Mm.
when in this particular book where they needed to talk, and
Mhm.
it was hard, at church. It was hard, you know, because of appearing together. Do you wanna talk about how you took those 2 into this book and
Yeah, well,
without
with
reveals?
sure. With Tabitha and Jonas, yeah, there are a lot of complications. That first of all, they really they become genuine friends and they really truly care for each other. But it's difficult because A, she's divorced, and within the Amish culture, there is no divorce. They simply
Mm,
don't divorce. They might actually realistically within the Amish culture, people might live separately, right? So if you have a couple who just really can't get along, they might live separately, but they'll always be known as husband and wife, and they,
mm,
you know what I mean? Like there is no remarriage. There's no ending of this. Like you might not like your choice, but that was your choice, and it's for life, right? So it doesn't mean that everybody stays together in wonderful harmony and happiness in real life, but they would live separately and they don't get divorced. So Tabitha being divorced, they don't know how to
Mm.
handle this. They don't know how to address it. Some of this I actually got from I noticed there's a lot of similarities in different communities, and this is a similarity that I found interesting between my husband's African family and Amish culture, which is actually quite similar. And that is that inability to understand what divorce is. And my sister in law got divorced and for good reasons. And so she got divorced. And for years, people would say, "Oh, how is your husband?" Right. And legally divorced, they moved on. She had married another guy. And they would ask about her husband by name, like her first husband. They were just like, they were not accepting of, right? So community can make these things incredibly difficult. Even if legally you can do something, and in their country, legally, it was all, they could get divorced. But the community surrounding them were like, oh, we're not accepting this. And to this day, I can see how she's actually still quite close to her ex-husband. I think a lot of and the community. Hey, he's your first husband. So there's a lot of these pressures. And so I sort of emotionally really sympathized for my sister-in-law. And I was just
Mm.
like, oh my goodness, it's a really tough situation. And I think that sort of sparked it for me, being like, within the Amish community where there is no divorce, I think, that's where I got that very human reaction to when people think they're doing well by trying to help you stay with the original person, or they're trying to help you, not do wrong in their eyes. And they think that they're being helpful, but it's just this intense societal pressure. And so Tabitha is going through that. She has divorced her husband for very good reason. She just could not be with this guy. It was awful. It was heartrending. She never went into it thinking that that's how it would end. It's heartbreaking for her. And and yet the community is like, I'm sorry, you're married, right? And there's no acknowledgement of that. So she can't get remarried. So it doesn't matter what she and Jonas feel for each other. If they're going to stay within the Amish community, they can't
Mm.
get married. They simply can't. It's
Mm.
not a possibility within their structure.
Mm.
And so that's a huge problem for them. And what was the other thing? You guys had brought up something else with the difficulties with the two of them. Oh, the time alone together.
right.
So yeah, so there's very like the Amish have an interesting approach to sort of like, first of all, women hang out with women, men hang out with men,
Mhm.
unless you're part of the youth group and you are unmarried. And then there's,
Mm.
everyone getting to be friends with each other and hopes you will find a spouse. And then you will get married, and then women will hang out with women, and men will hang out with men, right? So they have this it's a very, this is how things work, right? And so with her not technically in their eyes, she's divorced. In their eyes, she is she is a married woman and therefore she is not available for this. And in their eyes, she's wasting Jonas's time.
Mm.
Jonas wants to get married and have a family. He wants all of those things, and she can't deliver on that. Not within their culture. She can't deliver on that. So this is another thing where people are kind of keeping an eye out, and they're trying to spare them from taking a relationship too far, right? From getting your heart broken when honestly, this can't go anywhere. Like,
Mm.
you know what I mean? Pull your heart back. This can't go anywhere. And so that's something that they're trying to do. They are trying to do the smart thing. And they're trying to say, okay, look, this can't actually go anywhere. It doesn't matter if there's a lot of emotional potential between us. If this can't go anywhere, we really need to be smart about this and we need to take that step back.
Mm.
And I think that in life, I think that's something we could probably all identify with, where in the respect of, say, somebody who becomes a little too close friends with somebody who's married, right? And if you go like, okay, you're great. I have a wonderful time with you. I'm starting to feel a little too comfortable with you, and I feel like this is starting to blur lines. Tell you what, step back. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I think we all do that. We all sort of have to keep a balance of
Mm.
appropriate relationships,
Mm.
right? Where we go, okay, I think this is, I'm going to have to deal with this differently because I think that I'm getting close to a line that's not good. So I think that's something that we can probably all identify with. But with this situation with Tabitha, of course, it's times 1,000, right? Because it's such a strict culture, and even though we, as Englishers, we can say, "Hey, she's single," right? Come on, she even has biblical grounds for that divorce. She is
Right.
single. Okay, we can really we can get behind her, but her culture cannot.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Speaking of crossing the line and appropriate relationships and whatnot, it dawned on me at last in the third book, when I'm reading about Jonas as a character, he's noble, he's, honorable, he's kind, he's attentive. And I thought, oh, my high school English teacher, my high school Shakespeare teacher would be so proud of me. These are foil characters. And then I thought, oh no, it's
Yeah.
taken me this long to realize
To
that he
figure
would
it
be
out.
ashamed of me. But they mirror each other in such wonderful ways. Tabitha's ex-husband, Michael, and then her very close friend, Jonas. Was that
Yeah.
something that when you were creating Jonas, were you creating him as the antithesis of Michael
Yeah.
when you were, yeah.
Yeah. That was actually intentional. Yeah. Because she sort of feels like she got duped with Michael, right?
Mm.
So she married him, she was young. They were feeling very strong feelings, and she did not realize what she was walking into exactly. And Michael is no surprise if you've read the series, it's from the beginning. Michael is
Yeah.
utterly unfaithful to her, just like chronically unfaithful to her. he's just and he just breaks her heart, and it just crushes her. She's left just utterly crushed. It was, yeah, again, I've with 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 people who I've known and people in, my extended family who have had this experience where someone's been chronically unfaithful to them and it's just crushed them. I've sort of seen the fallout of that, from close up, just how crushed and hurt somebody is, how the kids are not okay. I don't have there being kids in this story, but the deep, deep hurt and pain that's caused by all of this, Tabitha has really gotten the brunt of it. And so I needed to, in the course of this series, I needed Tabitha to get her her happiness and her happily ever after at the end of this series. I needed her to have that because she's been through so much. And as readers, when you've invested in this character, you've got to see her finally get, that life that she deserves. It wasn't her fault. And how many people can say they got into a first marriage that went phenomenally wrong and it wasn't their fault? they did their best. They thought they were doing the right thing. I think about my own marriage when I got married. How well did my husband's wonderful, okay, faithful, been with him for 21 years. That's not the point of this. But when I married him, how well did I really know him? Actually, not terribly. Right? That was a risk. I look back on it, right, as a woman pushing 50, right? And I look back on it and I'm like, oh, that was a risk. That was, would I advise my son to do that? No. Sit down, think that through. Like, don't, like, do you know what I'm saying? Not that it didn't turn out well for me. It did turn out well, but it could have not. Do you know what I'm saying? It could have gone the other direction. So I think like I can't say, oh, well, it turned out well for me because I did such a good job in choosing.
Mm.
I actually didn't know him that well. From hello to I do was 8 months. We got married. Yeah, we got married very quickly. Fell madly in love. Got married very quickly. I didn't. In fact, the other day I was chatting with my husband's cousin, and I told her. I said, "Well, before I married him, I didn't even know your guys' names." And she was like, "Oh my goodness," because for her, she was like, "You got to be careful you got to be careful what family. You got to know the family. You got to know, you know what I mean, all these sorts of things. You got to know what you're getting yourself into. What's this family like?" I said, "I didn't even know names. I knew nothing. I knew him
Mhm.
moderately well."
Mhm.
I took a plunge. So I mean, like, how many of us, I am the same as anybody else. How many of us fall in love and take a plunge? And sometimes that does not pan out,
Mm.
right? And so for Tabitha, she fell in love, she took a plunge, she followed her heart, and it did not pan out. And so for me, I could really sympathize with her. I mean, she fell in love and it was horrible for her,
Mhm.
right? And so I really needed her. So you can rest assured by the end of this third book, Tabitha's good, right? I won't tell you exactly how it all because that would ruin the book. But Tabitha, don't worry, don't worry. She was in good hands here. Tabitha's good by the end of this.
Yep.
And I've heard from readers who, you guys included, oh, I don't think you guys actually mentioned how it ended. I have talked to you guys, and you guys have read the book, but I've heard from other readers who have said, "Oh, they were so happy that like exactly how it panned." They were like, "Oh, good, 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 good," and all they were like, just they felt it was a very, very satisfying ending. So I pulled out the stops with this one. I really, I sort of I start it with a bang. I think I end it with a bit of a bang as well, and I really pulled out the stops, but I really, really I wanted to make sure my readers got the satisfying ending they deserved after investing in this miniseries. I wanted to make sure that by the end of this miniseries, people would go, "Oh, yes, that series." I really wanted that response. And I'm getting that from readers that I'm hearing back from who are part of my launch team. So they're getting that early read of the book like you guys did. So they're part of the launch team and they're going, "Oh, good." Like they really felt that satisfying. And as the author, I'm like, that's what I was going for. And so I'm glad. I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see that people have that emotionally satisfying. They aren't left at the end of the series throwing the book against the wall.
Yeah, yeah, I felt not only a satisfying ending, but then there were a few more pages, and
Yeah.
I think the readers are just going to be
Mm.
so moved by the absolute
Epilogue.
conclusion,
Yeah.
Oh,
the
good.
conclusion
Mm.
that she fostered and gave to
I'm
us.
really glad. Yeah,
Mm.
I'm really glad.
Yeah.
Things we can't say, but I'm
Yeah,
really glad.
yeah, but don't close the book when you think,
Yeah.
"Oh, there's a few more pages in the study guide,
Nah,
we'll"
yeah, yeah.
Read to the very
Yes,
end. Yeah,
yeah,
there's
read
more.
to the very end.
There's more. Yeah.
There you go. Very good, very good. Mm.
Do do you think that we have met a few family, one kind of the Schrock family is very prominent in the first three books, but we have met other characters, or heard of other characters here and there throughout these three books. Do you think that we will you will want to write more in this Shepherd Hill setting?
Uh, Honestly, I think with the conclusion of this book, I think I would wrap up The Shepherd's Hill just because I really I really feel like I ended it, right? And so while there are other characters that I don't think I could write them to the level that I wrote these characters.
Ah.
And so I think if I did, like I say, a spin-off series from it, I
Mhm.
feel like it wouldn't be as strong. And so I'd probably want to start fresh with something else. And so I wouldn't want it to be like, oh, that first series was great and the next one was okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't
Yeah,
want
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like, that would, yeah, I would sort of feel like yeah. So yeah, and there isn't any more contracted right now.
Right.
So I've got for these like with Bethany House, I don't have any more contracted right now. So it's more of a let's see how this series does. And I got a bunch of other books contracted elsewhere. So don't worry, I'm writing.
Okay.
I am staying very busy. I'm very busy writing. In fact, I'm doing my best. Now, this is sort of like, you say it out loud and then watch it all crumble and not work.
Oh.
But I'm doing my best to try and take December off this year. So I'm trying to write ahead and I'm
Uh-huh,
working
uh-huh.
super hard to like meet all my deadlines by say the first week of December because I really want to enjoy Christmas this year. And every year I tell myself, oh yeah, I'm going to really enjoy Christmas. And I always have a deadline. And so I'm working hard and I'm pushing through for the deadline. And it's like, I never really get to really enjoy Christmas the way I want to. And so this year I'm like, okay, this is the year. So I'm doing my best to get everything done ahead of time. I want to try and take off about 3 weeks in December just to really enjoy Christmas. And then hit the ground running again in January where I have more contracted books. So yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe if I can issue a few reminders, and then Barney, if you can
Yep.
take us to the end. Through the Valley, August the 4th. You'll just enjoy the heck out of it. I should
Mhm.
mention also, Patricia has a newsletter, and patriciajohns.com is where one can enter into that, and it's a delight each month
Mhm.
to access that through email. Speaking personally, it's been so great to see you again, talk to you again, and hear your views and insights into this
Mhm.
latest book. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been wonderful.
Yeah, it really truly has, you know, I think I still remember back with our very first episode, and I said, "Wow, this has been, through all the authors that we've talked to, don't tell anyone else, but this has been one of the best ones we've ever talked to." And it remains true. It's our chats with you are always something to look forward to, and we hope that everyone else listening out there thinks that these are uh, exceptionally great episodes to listen to or watch on YouTube. And we do want to say, since the book is coming out August 4th, but you can pre-order as well to make sure that if you're using a digital device, it gets downloaded the very second that it's available. As the first and second books delivered so strongly, this third one does as well, without a doubt. And you'll be very glad that you had the chance to see how everything wraps up and learn about a few new characters along the way, and see a lot of great insight and learn a little bit about yourself too. I think no matter where you are in life, there's really a lot of poignancy in the book and in the characters and how things come to get wrapped up in the end. So for the Two World podcast, I am Barney, and my co-host, of course, today is Ken. And we were joined today by the very delightful and very talented New York Times bestselling author, Patricia Johns. And we will see you all again next time.